The 1 Year Bible Storybook by Virginia J. Muir. Today's story comes from Genesis chapter 18, The Heavenly Visitors. One hot day, Abraham was sitting at the door of his tent. He saw 3 men coming. He invited them to rest for a while. They brought water so they could wash their tired, dusty feet. Then he asked Sarah to prepare some food for them. 2 of the men were angels, and the third one was God, disguised in the form of a man. When the angels were eating, the one who was God said, "Next year you and Sarah will have the promised son." Inside the tent, Sarah heard this, and she laughed to herself about the idea of having a baby in her old age. God said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh? Doesn't she know that the Lord can do anything? She really will have a baby." Sarah was afraid, so she lied. She said, "I didn't laugh." But God knows everything. So he knew she really had laughed. When the 3 visitors left, Abraham walked with them toward Sodom. Do you remember who lived at Sodom? Yes, it was Lot, Abraham's nephew. God told Abraham he was planning to destroy Sodom, to punish the people for their great sinfulness. Abraham didn't want Lot to be destroyed, so he said to God, "If there are 50 good men there, will you change your mind?" God answered, "Yes, if there are 50. Abraham kept asking this, making the number smaller and smaller until he got to 10. God said he would leave the city alone if he could find even 10 good men there. Then Abraham stopped asking and he went back home. The next story comes from Genesis chapter 19. The angels warn Lot. That evening, as Lot sat by the city gate, the 2 angels who had visited Abraham came to warn Lot about the trouble that was coming. They said, "Be sure that you and your wife and your daughters and their husbands all get out of Sodom. Do it quickly, because God is going to destroy this city." Lot's son-in-laws didn't believe the warning, and they refused to leave. Lot took his wife and his daughters, and he started to leave town. He hated to leave his comfortable home, but the angels grabbed his arms and hurried him along. "Don't look back at Sodom," they said. "Run to the mountains and hide." Lot was afraid to go up into the mountains, so he begged the angels to let him stay in a small nearby city called Zoar. They said, "All right, hurry up then, run!" Lot's wife knew she shouldn't look back at Sodom, but she disobeyed the order of the angel anyway. When she turned around for that last look, she suddenly turned into a big pillar of salt. Lot and his daughters had no time to stop. They hurried on, and they left her there looking like a white statue. God destroys Sodom. Just as Lot and his daughters arrived in Zoar, the sun came up, And at that very moment, God poured down fire on Sodom and a nearby city named Gomorrah. Everything in those cities and the farmland around them burned up, all the buildings, people, animals, and plants. Far away where Abraham lived, he could see great billows of smoke rising from those terrible fires. Then he knew God had not been able to find even 10 good men in Sodom, because God had promised to spare the city if he found 10 people who were not wicked. Do you think God would have burned up Sodom if Abraham had asked him to spare it for just one good man? Lot. The people in Zoar weren't much better than the ones in Sodom, and soon Lot became afraid of them. He decided he would be safer in the mountains, so he and his daughters lived in a cave. His daughters were not good women. They became the mother of men who started very wicked tribes that made a lot of trouble for God's people many, many years later. This is Genesis chapter 18 and 19.